Honorable members,
provided that presidents of
you have to be reasonable enough.
And for him even to go out to report, Mr. Speaker, it's confidential matter. You know the meaning of executive session. He couldn't have gone there to report that one. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say that there is a kind of false platform that I'm seeing, because after that meeting, sir, PDP caucus of those two chambers went and had another discussion, I can kind of build up on the security situation. And I think, Mr. Speaker, we need to be serious. I say we need to be serious. I see somebody as a Berebe who is the leader in the Senate championing that, yes, there are many flaws. He bailed Kanu Namdi. During the answers, we knew what happened. He was the one, Kanu Namdi was the one who was asking for the head of Tinubu, destroy this, destroy that in this nation. But we have allowed him. You know what happened, you knew what happened to Indume. Indume for bailing Mana was taken to prison for not producing. But we allowed this man to go as a opposition person, and that's why they could send everything back to the face. I'm a presiding officer. I wish to be neutral as much as possible. But what is happening, sir, I think there is need for us as a system to change our tactics. It's not about opposition. If you are going to do opposition that is right. Give us factual things and also be part of the solution problem. Mr. Speaker, respected colleagues, I think our privilege has been breached. There was completely wrong information, and it's deliberate. And that's why I'm citing the issue of what I've seen the minority leader in the Senate have done, with all of them sitting behind him. Ordinarily, for failing to produce Kanu Namdi, he should be in prison, just like Ndume was taken to prison. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. What's the point of order?
Not being able to produce Shekaru, you should go to.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Uzaman Kemabonta is my name. Mr. Speaker, I come under privilege. The man that is mentioned is my senator. There's a judicial decision on this. Are we trying to arrogate ourselves judicial powers as to when you can produce someone who is on bail? It was canvassed up to appeal. Is there an offense to bail somebody? If you bail somebody, you produce him subject to there's no interference. The last contact the man in question had was with the military. The senator took on bail, the man was coming to court regularly. The senator didn't default. He was called to show cause, and he showed cause successfully. Why is it a point of reference in the parliament? That's a breach of my privilege. That's my senator. We shouldn't canvass there. It's here. Except we are now trying to see that an appellate court by interfering with the judiciary. The matter went on a full whole course with the judiciary. We are aware of that. We should take judicial notice of that. He was asked to show cause, and he did show cause. And then I was producing this man when there was no interference. We should ask the military, why did they keep him? So for we to come here now to make allusion to that, it's not proper. We should do things that will get us peaceful. Yeah. Our problem now is security. We are trying to see how do we get security.
I get your point. I think the Deputy Speaker's point was not on legality or non-legality. He was talking about the morality of it. And if you remember, he talked about Senator Ndume as well, and used that as also as an example. I think the point that we need to make and understand, we're all working together to build this nation, and that's why we have this up there. Nation building is a joint task between all of us, amongst all of us, whatever party, whatever tribe, whatever religion. We only have one country. So we should not, in doing that, we should be mindful whilst we play our role as the ruling party, or we play our role as the opposition. We should be focused on the non-disintegration or bringing down the country, and be mindful in our speeches and in our utterances. There's freedom of speech, but freedom of speech also has to be, your freedom to speak has to be measured. I think that's the point that was being made. And the point, the bigger point was that we had an executive session. And that it's traditional in Parliament to have executive sessions. When you have executive sessions, you clear the chambers, you clear the gallery, everybody leaves, microphones, everything is up, because you want to talk to each other as a body. And whatever transpires in the executive session, sometimes we see it on the pages of the papers, and we always wonder, how did this get leaked? How did that get leaked? And I think the point that he was saying was that we shouldn't get carried away because we're in a party caucus and reveal whatever was discussed even without revealing the names of who said what and who didn't say what. It is still a revelation of what transpired, whether behind closed doors or whatever, but it was still in executive session. Otherwise, members will not be able to open up and discuss when they come to executive session. So let's put this matter to rest. Let's, on either side, both sides, ruling party, the opposition, let us all work together to move this country forward, and let not partisan politics come between us or have a role in the direction we're going as a country. We have a security summit coming up in a few days. The members comprise of both PDP, Labour, APC. And that's the spirit I think we should carry on. So I think let's just put this baby to rest now. Thank you. Yes.
Respected colleagues, the first business of the day is presentation of 23 bills. I now invite the clerk to read their short titles.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency Act Amendment Bill 2021, first reading. Nigerian Communications Commission Act Amendment Bill 2021, first reading. Nigerian Ports Authority Act Amendment Bill 2021, first reading. National Food Reserve Agency Establishment ETC Bill 2021, first reading. National Agricultural Development Fund Establishment Bill 2021, first reading. Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria Act Amendment Bill 2021, first reading. Tertiary Education Trust Fund Establishment Act Amendment Bill 2021, first reading. Orthopedic Hospitals Management Board Act Amendment Bill 2021, first reading. Tertiary Trust Fund Act Amendment Bill 2021, first reading. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration Bill 2021, first reading. Alex Ekweme Federal Teaching Hospital Abakaliki Establishment Bill 2021, first reading. Federal Medical Center Amagwiko Ebonyi State Establishment Bill 2021, first reading. National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies Act Amendment Bill 2021, first reading. Public Analysis of Nigeria Act Amendment Bill 2021, first reading. Personnel Management of Nigeria Act Amendment Bill 2021, first reading. Office of the Surveyor General of the Federation Establishment Bill 2021, first reading. University of Medicine and Health Sciences Bichi Establishment Bill 2021, first reading. National Budget Bill 2021, first reading. Federal Polytechnic Tombia Establishment Bill 2021, first reading. National Adult Education Center and Recreation Establishment Bill 2021, first reading. Federal College of Agriculture Kanofan Establishment Bill 2021, first reading. Mandatory Establishment of Guidance and Counseling departments in educational institutions in Nigeria Bill 2021, first reading. Nigerian Postal Service Act Repeal and Enactment Bill 2021, first reading.
Respected colleagues, the second business of the day is presentation of a report of the Committee on Health Institutions on a bill for an act to amend the Orthopedic Hospital Management Board Act Cap 01 or Laws of Federation of Nigeria 2004 to provide for the establishment of Orthopedic Hospital Benin, Edo State, and Jalingo, Taraba State, and for later matter, standing name Honorable Pascal Obi. Honorable members would call the bill was referred to the committee on Wednesday, 25th of March 2021. The report is ready for presentation. Honorable Obi is invited to lay the report. Honorable, go ahead. His member is laying the report on his behalf.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Amos Gomna Magaji. I represent the peaceful people of Zango and Katavjaba Federal Constituency. I'm from Kaduna State. Here to present the bill for an act to amend the Orthopedic Hospital Management Board Act, Cap 010, Law of the Federation of Nigeria 2014, to provide for establishment of the Orthopedic Hospital Benin, Edo State, and Jalingo, Taraba State, and for related matters, 2021, HB 1284.
Seconder. Yes, at the estimate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Atijani Kayode Ismail. I represent the good people of our federal constituency. I rise to second motion heavily moved by Honorable Amos Magaji. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against any, that's have it. Honorable, go ahead and lay the report. Respected colleagues, the third business of the day is presentation of interim report of the ad hoc committee on the need to review the purchase, use and control of arms, ammunition, and related hardware by military, paramilitary, and other law enforcement agencies in Nigeria, standing in the name of Honorable Olaide Akinremi. Honorable members will recall that the matter was deferred to the committee on Tuesday, 8 December 2020. The report is ready for presentation. Honorable Akinremi is invited to present the report.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I'm Prince Olaide Akinremi, member representing the good people and the good people of Ibadan North Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I represent the largest federal constituency in Oyo State. Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, I rise to thank you and the leadership of this Honorable House for opportunity given to me to chair this important ad hoc committee. Thank you. The report of the House Ad hoc Committee on the need to review the purchase, use, and control of arms, ammunition, and related hardware by military, paramilitary, and other law enforcement agencies in Nigeria. Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, the interim report of this all-important ad hoc committee is ready to be laid. With your kind permission, Your Excellency, may I proceed to lay this important interim report.
Seconder. Yes, Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, respected colleagues, I am Representative Taiwo Oluga. I am from Osun State, Mr. Speaker, and I speak for the people of Irewole Ayedade Ishokan Federal Consensus. I rise this afternoon to second the motion that the House do receive the interim report of the ad hoc committee on the need to review the purchase, use, and control of arms and ammunition. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, sir.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's have it. Please go ahead and lay a report. And you should forgive our Sada because he's of the PRP stock. So he does not believe in the institution of traditional leadership in Nigeria. So. Respected colleagues, the fourth order of the day, the fourth business of the day is presentation of 6 reports of the Committee on Public Petitions standing now Honorable J.D. Alagboso. Honorable Alagboso is invited to present the reports.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker. My name is Jerry Alaboso. I'm from Imo State, Mr. Speaker. I represent Olo Osun East Federal Constituency. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I rise to present by 6 reports by 6 petitioners and 6 respondents. Mr. Speaker, because of the time factor, I so present, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder, Honorable Luke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Onofiok Luke, 18 and Nseribum, Nserubium, Federal Constituency by the grace of God, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion as ably moved by Honorable Jerry Alagboso for the laying of 6 reports before this House.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against any? That's have it. Elder Honorable Alagboso, please go ahead and lay a report. Respected colleagues, the first order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principle of a bill for an act to establish the Environmental Trust Fund charged with the responsibility of imposing tax, managing and disposing the funds for environmental restoration, rehabilitation, conservation, research and education, and related matters standing in the name of Honorable Suleiman Abubakar Gumi. All members will recall the bill was referred to was read the first time on Tuesday, 24th March 2011. I now invite Honorable Gumi to move that the bill be read the second time. Honorable Gumi. Floor.
I was carried away. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to move the motion that the bill for an act to establish the Environmental Trust Fund charged with the responsibility for imposing the tax, management, disbursement, the funds for environmental restoration, rehabilitation, conservation, research, education, and other related matters for second reading. My name is Engineer Suleiman Abubakar Mahmoud Gumi, representing the good people of Gumi Bukoyum Federal Constituency of Zamfara State. The short title of the bill.
Seconder. Yes, Honorable Abbas. Don't press it, just when you press once, you leave it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Tajuddin Adekunle Obasa, representing Ojo Federal Constituency from Lagos State. I arise to second the motion moved by the Honorable. I so second. Thank you.
Gumi, in 2 minutes, lead the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The short title of the bill would read Environmental Trust Fund Bill 2019. Trust funds are universally accepted means of curtailing funding challenges that affect the achievement of set goals. In fact, global institutions like the World Bank and United Nations have keyed into this concept just as families are also beginning to set up trust funds to cater for financial needs. By virtue of prevalent challenges which places a huge burden on the country's resources and budget expectations, it is glaringly impossible for government to achieve all of its fundamental objectives. Issues of environmental degradation stare right into our faces, ranging from pollution, deforestation, erosion, effect of climate change, etc. Overall, the attendant effect of climate change condition means that we ought to protect the environment graciously so as to secure a future Earth that would continue to adequately host man. Government has indeed established several means of addressing environmental degradation. However, there seems to be little impact from this effort as corrective measures have not matched the fast eroding levels of the environment. Incidentally, the concern about financing environmental problems is not new. Several international conventions and treaties have been enacted to encourage nations to identify ways and means of providing new and additional financial resources, particularly to developing countries for environmentally sound development projects in accordance with the national development plans. Recurring advocacy in a bid to addressing environmental issues all point towards establishing environmental funds as legal entities to provide long-term financing for environmental management activities. Details of the bill. This bill is divided into 5 parts. Basically, it seeks to impose a tax on environmental degradation factors and empowers the Federal Inland Revenue Service to assess and collect such tax. For obvious reasons, the bill proposes the establishment and composition of the Environmental Trust Fund and Management Board. It goes further to explain the purpose of the fund, which, amongst other things, is to encourage and support the restoration and rehabilitation of projects in both the public and private sectors that will or are likely to prevent or reduce pollution or environmental degradation of any kind. Having established the fact that government will continuously encounter problems of financing the mitigation of environmental problems, there is no gainsaying that the establishment of a trust fund to help generate funding in this regard is not out of place. The current global action targeted towards restoring and protecting the environment further strengthens this argument. The trust fund will help cater and strengthen...
Honorable Gumi, you are supposed to be guided, you are supposed to have a time limit of maximum of 5 minutes for your debate.
Okay, I'm almost done, Speaker.
Please.
Trust funds are naturally self-sustaining. As such, its establishment may not be of huge financial burden to costs of governance, especially in relation to its objectives. I therefore urge you all to support this proposal and equally support its passage for obvious reasons of ratifying international and regional conventions as well as ensuring a clean and safer environment for every Nigerian. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Linda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm Linda Chibai-Gazo, Onisha North and South Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, taking care of our environment is very important. But looking at this bill, I'm reminded that we do have ecological fund. So we just have to be careful so we don't have a duplicity of responsibilities. Everything that's enumerated in this bill, which is a very nice bill, is already being taken care of by ecological funds. So I'm just wondering if we have to establish this, and we also have to be very careful about establishment bills, because establishment bills definitely comes with a lot of cost. If we have this, what are we going to do with ecological fund? Because these are the same responsibilities that are being taken by the ecological fund. So I'm just wondering how we can have two funds doing the same thing. So that's just, so I think we need to actually look at it very well so we don't have duplicity. It wouldn't even make sense to have another fund doing the same thing. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order. His motion was properly seconded before I asked him to now give the synopsis of the bill. It was properly seconded. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remain Uzoma Nkem Abonta. Mr. Speaker, I listened to the presenter of the bill attentively and carefully. I also listened to the comment of my sister, Honorable Linda. What the presenter or writer of this bill is saying, let there be a better management of ecological fund. What he's saying is that environmental pollution and problems should be given a better attention. I agree with both speakers. I also want to say, let it go to the committee and public hearing so experts will come. As of truth, sir, honorable colleagues, ecological fund is a huge money from our budget, yet we don't see much use of it. There's a lot of arguments as for the use and non-use of it. He's trying to say, let there be a proper coordination and channeling and use of this fund, which the critical stakeholders and experts could peradventure at the committee and wherever match this issue. Because the principal statements there are environment and environmental fund. Ecology, ecological is purely environment. Mr. Speaker, ecological fund is a table, it's a department under the Ministry of Environment. The environmental trust fund is ecological fund, just that he's using the word trust. So if we merge the two, then we'll be able to come with a better provision for it. It's not in doubt that we have ecological problem everywhere. It's not in doubt. It's worrisome that the management of that fund is still in issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would therefore say, consider the time spent, let's consign it to the public domain through committees. Let there be a public hearing so that we can know the real thing and what to do and what not to do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Respected colleagues, I would beg of you, those who are going to contribute, to be mindful of time. We have about 5 or 7 more bills for consideration, and today is our last day before the break for Salah, so that we'll be able to do justice to all the bills that are on the order paper. On Baba Yal, then come back to the leader.
Right Honorable Speaker, respected colleagues, I remain Abdullah Saad Abdulkadir, APC Ningi Warji, Federal Constituency of Bauchi State. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of this bill for the establishment of a trust fund to look and take care of our environment. Mr. Speaker, we all know that our environment has been subjected to a lot of problems, ranging from degradation, which tilts more towards the ecological issue, and even pollution. All over the place, we see how the environment is being littered with a lot of materials that end up in affecting the quality of our environment. That is one. Then we also have the issue of deforestation. We have the issue of dumping of refuse everywhere. So these are things that really need to be looked into, and we cannot do that without having a proper funding arrangement that is supposed to look after that. Mr. Speaker, my respected colleagues, this bill, I believe, gives us an opportunity, a window, to look at the operations of some companies in Nigeria. For example, the companies that are engaged in the production of polythene bags, you know, if we impose a tax on them, that will regulate how polythene bags are being used in this country, because moral suasion has proved not to work. You know, there have been calls for recycling, for proper dumping and what have you, but it is not working. So we need to, from the onset, impose a kind of fee on these companies so that the money will be used by government to take care of the byproducts of their manufacturing activities. Then secondly, another area that also can be brought into the net of this bill is the area of hardware. You see, we have a lot of hardware in the country, computer hardware, phones, and what have you. Globally, this is a sector that is constituting a lot of problem to the environment. So that area, we can also impose certain fees or certain taxes so that it will be used by government in remedying the effects, the negative effects that these byproducts are giving to the environment. And there are a lot of other benefits that is going to be enjoyed by the country. So I believe this is a motion that needs to be supported. And I also agree with our ranking members that perhaps at the committee stage, we need to look at the possibility of maybe marrying the two, the ecological aspect and this, what this bill is trying to address. And I so move, Mr. Speaker.
I think you should allow the leaders to speak, even if you want me to put the question. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Toby Okechu, and I represent an area of Godi River Federal Constituency from Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, this bill for an act to establish the Environmental Trust Fund charged with responsibility for imposing tax, managing and disbursing the funds for environmental restoration, rehabilitation, conservation, research and education, and further related matters. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I believe that issues pertaining to the environment is very important in this country. And if we go back, you will appreciate that Nigeria presently is suffering the consequences of impact on our environment. You may talk about farmers, people who are engaged in animal husbandry, herders and all that. The migration and the massive migration, they're all related to environment. And we need to pay attention, and very well too, if we do not indirectly want to undermine ourselves. So I believe that the principle is good. But the point also to make is that it is very important that
we align it with other existing structures. Because from all indications, what he's saying that the source of funding for this is tax. Then we need to say, okay, in what way is the ecological fund functioning? So there has to be a realignment of all these elements. And for me, if he had said that the source of funding would be ecological fund, I would say it's very prudent. I do not like any fund or any activity that is subject to whims and caprices of anybody. I don't like situations where it is at the discretion of anybody. And for me, ecological fund as presently constituted, there isn't a clear modus operandi for it. So I think during the interrogation at public hearing, I think it should go to second, because there is no way, there's no art to find the man's construction on the face until it is unboweled, until you say what you want. It should be interrogated, because the issue of environment is very important to Nigerians. The devastation on erosion, which predominantly happens in the southeast, you go to south-south, you see pollution. There is no regulation or any manner of attention that is put to oil devastation. So I think that we need to have an approach to this. And the only way to come to that is when experts, the Nigerian people, the members of the public, are given opportunity to interrogate the principles and the associated provisions of the law. So I recommend it for second reading, so that it should pass second reading. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my leader, the speaker, my fellow colleagues. I'm Oluwole, okay, representing Ijesha North. I'm from Osun State, Mr. Speaker. Sir, just to add flesh to it, Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General of the Federation had raised queries year in, year out over administration of the ecological funds. And as a matter of fact, Auditor General had suggested that the Parliament, come up with a law to manage that fund. So this bill is apt, and except I don't know if we had a bill on the floor on ecological matter, but if we haven't, this bill is coming at the right time. So I support that the bill be read second time, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate it.
Just like Honorable Oleke said, if there's a bill, now the issue of marrying the two cannot come through public hearing. It has to be repeal and enactment bill that can solve the problem. And I don't know whether to proceed or to allow him more time in terms of, so that we'll seem to be doing a good job. If there's a bill on ecological fund, which I know is funded from the Federation account directly, in terms of what is accruing to us, and then there's a sharing formula there too, but I'm not aware of as to the extent of the provision of the law. Honorable Gumi, it is to give us a good job. And instead of putting the question, I will have maybe twice online and the line of others to step down the bill for further legislative input so that you will be able to do justice to the issues that have been raised. We have answers to them?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ecological funding and this bill, they are two different things entirely. Even the source of funding, this is supposed to be an independent body completely, because Nigeria, we don't have any law that will be taken serious on environmental issues by international community. This bill will provide that platform for us, where everywhere the fight against environmental degradation everywhere in the world is practicing the same thing where I'm trying to put through this bill. So ecological funding, they have a specific funding and objective that they are pursuing, which is totally different from this environmental trust fund.
Honorable Gumi, I think we have to save our citizens from multiple taxation and then multiplicity of our agencies. is important. It is in the interest of our own country to put in certain laws that will serve our purpose. And what has been raised, if you are going to create another agency, that's where the issue on the bill that brought on the issue of money, when we are now trying to compress the number of agencies, we cannot be seen to be duplicating agencies that will become to perform almost the same function. Thank you. Because you are supposed to actually come with a compendium as to the implication of putting up this bill in terms of financial implication. That has not been done. And how issue that there was raised and other issues are very much in place. We should be in a position to reduce multiple taxation. But it is up to you. Yes, sir. Though he has confirmed it is not the same thing with ecological fund. So, but the decision is for the House. Do we proceed to put the question? Thank you. Those in favor that the bill be read second time say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk is invited to read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to establish the Environmental Trust Fund charged with responsibility for imposing tax, managing and disbursing the funds for environmental restoration, rehabilitation, conservation, research and education and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill is referred to Committee on Environment. The second order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principle of a bill for an act to amend the Sheriff and Civil Process Act, Cap S6, Laws of Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to increase the cost of fines and put the Attorney General of the Federation on a pre-execution notice after garnishing order involving a public officer has been ruled by the Court of Competent Jurisdiction and for related matters, standing now Honorable Linda. Honorable members will recall that the bill was read the first time on Wednesday, 3rd March 2011. I now invite the Honorable Linda to read the bill, be read the second time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Linda Chuba-Ibiazu, member representing Onitsha North and South Federal Constituency. May I, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, move that a bill for an act to amend the Sheriffs and Civil Process Act, Cap 6, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to increase fines and put the Attorney General of the Federation on a pre-execution notice after a garnishing ordinance involving a public officer has been ruled by a court of competent jurisdiction for related matters. Be read a second time. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Engineer Yunus.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I am Abubakar Yunus Ahmed, representing Yamal Chideba Federal Constituency. I am from Gombe State. I stand to second the motion ably moved by Honorable Linda that the bill for an act to amend the Sheriffs and Civil Process Act, Cap S6 to the end of it, be read a second time. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Linda, go ahead and lead the debate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the sections being sought for amendment is Section 84 of the Principal Act. This Principal Act, Mr. Speaker, actually has its roots in the common law. The principle guiding the common law at the time was that the king can do no wrong, and at that particular time you could not sue the state in tort. So that was the principle at that time. And this was sort of like transported into Section 84 of our Interpretation Act, which was, of course, led to the Section 84 of the Sheriff and Civil Process Act. Mr. Speaker, the understand, of course, this common law principle has been abolished in England, but unfortunately it's still being used here in Nigeria. It was abolished in 1947 in England. So what this Section 84 actually does is give the Attorney General the power to adjudicate upon an already concluded matter where issues has been joined and judgment of court reached, and maybe an order of court. So the Attorney General will then decide whether to attach, and this specifically deals with garnishing proceedings. So that power, Mr. Speaker, goes against Section 6 of our Constitution, which clearly vests the judicial powers in the judicial arm of the government. So if you have a situation where an individual has the power to decide on whether an order of court has to, or maybe judge of course has to be obeyed, then that is totally wrong. So my amendment is to have another section, Section 84(2), and have a provision where instead of giving the Attorney General the power to so do, what will happen is the Attorney General will now be given pre-execution notice. He'll have 14 days, and of course, an additional 30 days to actually obey the judgment of court when it has to do with a public officer. This is specifically for public officers, Mr. Chairman, honorable members. And of course, our judicial system has a system where you can appeal when you don't agree with the judgment of the trial court. So we should actually stick with our judicial system. And I also have amendment to certain sections because it deals with fines. Mr. Speaker, when we say that we're going to fine for maybe breach of law, whatever, the essence, Mr. Speaker, is that it should serve as a deterrent. In a situation where you have fines that have 200 naira, 100 naira, that does not serve as a deterrent. So it's basically the Section 84, Section 28, Section 68, Section 69 of this Act that dealing with fines that I'm seeking to amend. So I plead that and urge the House to so support this amendment. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The question now is those in favor that the bill bears content, say aye. Against any, that's have it. Clerk is invited to read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to amend the Sheriffs and Civil Process Act, Cap S6, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to increase fines and put the Attorney General of the Federation on a pre-execution notice after a garnishee ordinance involving a public officer has been ruled by a court of competent jurisdiction and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to Committee on Judiciary. Respected colleagues, the third order of the day is a commencement of a debate on the general principle of a bill for an act to provide for the protection of the identity of national security agencies, personnel, agents, sources, information and operational methods from unlawful disclosure, and to protect their establishment, facilities, and equipment against unauthorized access, as well as provide for the promotion and enhancement of Nigerian external security and for later matters. Standing now on okay, all members would call that the bill was read the first time on Wednesday, 3rd March 2021, and now invite Honorable OK to move that the bill be read the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My fellow colleagues, I remain Oluwole representing Obokunoriade, Ijesha North. I'm from Osun State, Mr. Speaker. My fellow colleagues, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, sir, may I move that the bill for an act to provide for protection of the identity of national security agencies personnel, agents, sources, informants, and operational methods from unlawful disclosure, and to protect the establishment, facilities, and equipment against unauthorized access, as well as provide for the promotion and enhancement of Nigerian external security and for related matters. For second reading, I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder. Yes, my brother from Akwa Ibom.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, Idem Unyime is my name, member representing Ukanafun, Rogonam Federal Constituency of Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion as moved by my colleague, Honorable Okay. I so second. Thank you.
I suppose it's a very straightforward bill. The question now, against? You say? You don't want protection for our security? Huh? Then in that case, I will allow Oloiki to give some highlights, even if it's for 2 minutes or 1 minute.
My fellow colleagues, this bill is need-based, and it flows from conventions, practices across the globe. Mr. Speaker, sir, our personnel in our embassies, particularly an incident occurred in one of the Eastern Europe countries, Czech Republic. A staff of NIA in the embassy was monitored, traced into the embassy, and killed. Even within Nigeria here, sir, because of lack of protection of identity of our personnel, there have become a daily, there have been daily attacks of this personnel. Mr. Speaker, in Niger Republic here, a CIA agent, staff from the United States, whose identity
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. I come under constitutional order specifically 315 of the Constitution, 315 sub 5 sub C, in conjunction with the National Security Agencies Act. I come under control order 315 sub 5 sub C and National Security Agencies Act. What my friend, colleague is producing is apt, but it is covered sufficiently. The provision 315(1) sub 5 says nothing in this constitution shall invalidate the flowing enactment. That is to say, I repeat, 315(1) sub 5 say 5C, but 5 says nothing in this constitution shall invalidate the following enactments. That is to say, C, National Security Agencies Act. Mr. Speaker, National Security Agencies Act on that table had covered exactly everything here. We can't amend this constitution, that act by this again. We have to repeal that one. Otherwise, what he's saying is very apt. Maybe he did not know of this National Security Act. All he's saying here now is content therein. Is amount to duplication. Is amount to trying to also amend this constitution now by that. That's what I'm saying. Let's save parliamentary legislative time. He's very apt. His examples are correct. The things he wants to put in there are already there. We can only amend that act or add something. But telling us to duplicate this now, because exactly, if you permit me to look at that book now and open it, you say it's the same thing the National Security Act are saying. Their protection, their welfare, their promotion, their identity, and all whatnot is contained in there. On that note, I think we can't bring that here, except he files an amendment to the National Security Act. But even at that, it will mean coming under constitutional amendment to extricate these laws. For example, Mr. Speaker, it's about NYC, Land Use Act, or whatnot. They're all caught under this section. You can't tinker with them except you bring them out of constitution before you can talk about it. Once it's in constitution, you must tinker with the constitution before you can talk. We are forbidden. We are bad. There's an injunction on us not to even discuss it by this constitution. I so raise the order, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I'm very familiar with the provisions that my learned colleague referred to, the NSA Act of 1986. That act, Mr. Speaker, gave birth to 3 agencies: Department of State Security Services, Defense Intelligence Agency, and the National Intelligence Agency. I am familiar with the provisions of that law, and we can test it. We can bring out that act for us to look at the provisions and all the issues raised therein. Mr. Speaker, sir, I didn't just come with this bill. I've done a very extensive research before coming with this bill, sir. Like I've said, it is need-based. NIA, SSS, NSA office, DIA, they all requested for this bill, Mr. Speaker. And I've had the privilege of being the chairman of House Committee on Defense in the past. So I am familiar with that law. And I disagree, I do not agree with the submission of my learned colleague. And we can test it. Let's go to the public hearing. All these issues can be discussed. So, but we can't at this stage, abort this bill. I so plead that this bill be allowed to be read for the second time. And if there are issues at the public hearing, we'll look at it. The worst that will happen is that the committee that this bill be referred to might come with a verdict to say that this bill actually negates the provision of the Constitution. Or, like he has suggested, that amendment of NSA Act. Mr. Speaker, sir, this law exists in the United States. This law exists in the United Kingdom. So I'm only trying to bring this bill to domesticate similar practices across the globe. I so submit, sir. Thank you.
Well, I would have thought it's not killing the bill because the language of the Constitution is very clear in terms of our restriction to attend to it. And I still want to read again. Nothing in the Constitution shall invalidate the following enactments. Nothing. The following enactments. And they now made reference to National Youth Service Corps, the Public Complaints Commission Act, the National Security Agencies Act. And so if this provision, like you said, are already captured there in their act, of course, no, if it is captured there,
in the act, it then will amount to nullity whatever we're going to do. So rather than putting question, my appeal to you as an experienced man, which I have utmost respect for you as a chairman, because at times agitation could come for something. Do they really actually have the opportunity to go through the provisions of the act vis-a-vis what the Constitution is saying? And maybe make a further study and return back to the House for us to continue the debate. That will have been my own appeal to you. You still have to want to contribute? Luke. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Onofio Luke, by the grace of God, I represent the people of Itinan, Nsribum, Srubium Federal Constituency in Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, accepting right now that we know, because at this stage, it is just on the merit general principles of the bill, not going into the details and the content of the bill, which is an exercise at the committee stage. Right now that we have not been privileged to know whether the content of the proposed bill are the same in the National Security Agencies Act as proposed, Mr. Speaker. If we have not been cleared on that, I think, Mr. Speaker, Section 4 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria grants us that absolute right and power as the law-making arm of government to do so. Looking at the provisions of Section 315, sub 5, A, B, C, sub 5, C, as stated by my colleague Honorable Bonta, and which you seem to buttress. We don't know the details of the act that he is proposing. While we don't know that yet, Mr. Speaker, I would ask that this bill be asked to pass, to be read the second time, and then we go to look at it at the committee stage. If it is against the provisions of the Constitution, automatically at that stage, the committee will consider it's null and void, and at that stage, our hands might have been tied, might have been manacled from acting. So I would support the position that this bill goes for second reading.
Honorable Luke, I would still want to advise. I'm not shutting down the bill, but for further study or consultation, the provision of Constitution is very clear. You have said, I'm not privileged to the provisions of what he's trying to amend or to enact. And if it is in conflict, of course, as a presiding officer, I would like to save every kobo. Instead of going into public hearing, that money could be utilized for something else. But if it is in the interest of the nation, by the time he goes through the provisions, 1 week is not too far from today, sir. They will come back and do the needful. I think it is not bad. I still want to add, because the provision of the Constitution, the section you quoted, is our powers to make laws, which is true. But in the same Constitution that gave us the power to make law, have also taken away certain jurisdictions out of our own powers. And until you amend that one, you cannot go to devil into those other laws that are not, they are provided there under. And if it is to protect the NIA, what is the NIA, for instance, or the Directorate of Security, that this one have exclusively stated that we should not devil into that one. You still have the, because I don't know the content of those other laws that have been quoted here. You have the content? Please, thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Toby Okechukwu, and I represent an area of Wejiriba Federal Constituency from Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I think any bill that addresses the conditions of engagement of our men and women that ordinarily put up their lives for the safety of this country should receive serious consideration. So I believe that the sponsor of the bill, Honorable Woloke, is doing so, mindful of the need for the welfare of people who are serving us and for the welfare of Nigerians and their protection anywhere. But, honorable colleagues, I would think that it is important to do so in concert with the law, which is section 315. And I don't think it is prudent on our part to engage Parliament in deployment of its man hours when ordinarily it can be saved. So I will suggest that Honorable Wale, who had been chairman of defense, can make a distinction. In law, they say it's distinguishing. Can make a distinction on whether the matters that are being canvassed here are not in the acts that exist, or there are some adjustment that needs to be made. I don't agree with Honorable Luke that it is when we get to the committee that we should know. We are discussing matters of principle, the principles of the bill. It is now here that you get seized of the facts that will enable you, encourage it to go to the committee level and check the quality. And what you do is a quality assessment. You must have an understanding of the mischief you want to cure, essentially. So if our colleague can make some distinctions on the provisions, because that they exist in the US, in other jurisdictions is fine. It could also be existing here under the National Security Agencies Act, which already is protected by armor, by the Constitution. So I think if we can make that separation, then we know the prudence of it. Then if it is not, he will come by way of constitutional amendment. And I believe that he will get proper distance. If he can explain to us further, it will be good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, my leader, for doing justice on this bill, to this bill. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm very familiar with the section of the Constitution that you have cited and that my colleagues have also spoken to. Mr. Speaker, sir, this bill is not about tampering with the provision of the Constitution. That very much I'm aware. That if you have to do so, you have to come by way of, a bill to amend the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, sir, like I've said earlier, I'm very, very familiar with the provisions of NSA Act. I've read it in and out. Except my leader can come out and show us in that act the sections that deals with the issue I'm canvassing. Mr. Speaker, I put it to you, sir, that this bill is a product of well-researched work, including our research arm in the National Assembly, sir. We had both worked on it before coming up with this bill, and I have circulated by Legislative Digest on this bill, sir. It has nothing to do, it does not tamper, it does not offend the provision of the Constitution, neither does the issues, the provisions intended in this bill exist in the NSA Act. Sir, we have the books here, we have the laws there. We can go through them. I will not come here, sir, with my legislative experience here to waste the time of the Parliament. Mr. Speaker, sir, the DSS made the written submission to me. The DNIA made the written submission. All the security agencies, even the FCC, I wrote all of them. And they made submission on this before coming to this floor. It's a product of well-researched legislative work. I so submit, Mr. Speaker.
So that we'll make progress.
Honorable Speaker, dear colleagues, my name is Mande Shaulu Kwewu, representing Takum Donga, Usa and Yangtu Federal Constituency of Taraba State. I will actually plead with Honorable Wole Oke to step down this bill for 3 reasons. The first reason is that I don't think that as a parliament, we should be stampeded by security agencies or what they want because they don't know the law. The reason why I said that is that I was also chairman after him of the House Committee on Army. The Army came and insisted that they wanted us to provide for them to buy helicopters. And we made those provisions in the budget. And the president said no. They were not implemented. We had to go around and start doing, what do you call it? There's a phrase, how to, is it environment or, yes, we had to start doing that. So it's not everything that comes from them that is actually well researched. A lot of things that come from them are not properly researched and based on information. Now, if this bill, specifically the National Securities Agencies Act, deals with all issues of establishment and give the president the powers to make the regulations, they are there in the act. To the extent that there's nothing called DSS. DSS is not in the act. But the regulation is what the president, the act gives the power to the president to do those things. The act also gives the president the powers to make regulations for the operations. And those things are captured in the operational methods. They are captured in this proposed act. So you now do an act that technically amends an existing act that the law constitution says we should not amend. Normally, under this parliament, what I've come to understand is that if you want to do an amendment to any institution and how they provide, you come directly to amend the law, not to create another law on the same subject matter. My worry about this, and I would have loved that the Right Honorable member will go back and look at this, look at the provisions clearly, because if you are going to do this provision, if you are going to go ahead and pass this one, go to public hearing, and then you discover that, not that you discover, you are going to come into conflict, because there's no way you can be talking about setting regulations, about establishment, operational methods that have already been given, the guidelines have been given to the president makes the regulations. In fact, as a result of that, I had a bill in the last assembly on the National Security Agencies Act to amend it. It had to be stepped down on the basis of this act. And I decided this assembly that we should go ahead to amend the Constitution, remove that section from the Constitution. I agree with him that there's compelling need to remove that section from the Constitution, because security needs are changing. To just allow the president, for instance, the president can decide that the name of the DG is no longer DG. It's there, the Act provides for him to say the person heading the SSS is no longer DG. Is the chairman.
Thank you, sir. I think I will still beg for my brother to step down so that we'll have further legislative input and then come back to do the needful. Have I gotten your this note? Thank you very much, sir. Bill step down for further legislative action. Respected colleagues, the fourth order of the day is the commencement of debate on the general principle of a bill for an act to establish a national renewable energy development agency and to charge it with the responsibility of promoting the use of renewable energy resources and for Matsani and Honorable Usman Abdullahi. Honorable members would call the bill was read the first time on Wednesday, 3rd March 2021, and I invite Honorable Abdullahi to move the bill read the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My highly respected colleagues, Osman Abdullah. I speak for the well-cultured people of Laban, Mokwa Edachi Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I'm from Niger State. I rise to move for a bill for an act to establish the National Renewable Development Agency, charged with the responsibility of promoting the use of renewable energy resources and for other related matters. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I so move.
Seconder. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My respected colleagues, my name is Honorable Musa Umar Garu, member representing Gorzakawa Federal Constituency. I am from Kano State. I rise to second the motion, the bill ably moved by Honorable Usman Abdullahi. I so second.
Do I put the question? The question is now that the bill will be seconded. Those in favor say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. The clerk is invited to read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to establish National Renewable Energy Development Agency and to charge it with responsibility of promoting the use of renewable energy resources and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to Committee on Science and Technology. Respected colleagues, the fifth order of the day is the commencement of debate on the general principle of a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal College of Nursing and Midwifery, or to Jeremy, and for related matters, signing the name of Honorable Francis Wavy. Honorable members will call the bill was read the first time on Tuesday, 29 October 2019. I now invite Honorable Wavy Francis to move the bill read the second time.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Right Honorable Speaker, and honorable colleagues. Francis A. Jirogane Waive is my name, and I represent the entire people of Ughelli North, Ughelli South, and Udu. I'm from Delta State. I rise to move for the second reading of a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal College of Nursing and Midwifery, O2 Gieme, and for related matters. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. I am Honorable Lego Idagbo. I represent the good people of the Kwara, Obudu, and Obanliku Federal Constituency in Cross River State. I rise to second the motion moved by my colleague that this bill be read a second time. I so second.
I think this is a very straightforward bill. Establishing those in favor of the bill, press second, say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk is invited to read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to provide for establishment of Federal College of Nursing and Midwifery, O2 and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to Committee on Health Institutions. Respected the sixth order of the day is commencement of the debate on the general principle of bill for an act to repeal the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs Act, CAP, N113 Laws of Federation of Nigeria 2004 and enact the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs Bill to broaden the scope and function of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs to add more values to the foreign mission and to provide for the power to conduct courses of instruction and learning and create academic board to award postgraduate diploma and master's degree in international relations, diplomatic practices, and political matters. Standing Honorable Yusuf Buba Yakub, all members will call that the bill was read the first time on Tuesday, 24th March 2021, and I invite Honorable Yakub to move that bill the second time.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm Yusuf Buba Yakub. I represent Gombe Home Federal Constituency from Adamawa State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that a bill for an act to repeal the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs Act, Cap N113, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and enact the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs Bill to broaden the scope and functions of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, to add more value to foreign missions, and to provide for the power to conduct courses of instruction and learning and create an academic board to award postgraduate diploma and master's degree in international relations, diplomatic practices, and for related matters. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Manin. Yeah, request. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Excellency. My name is Munir Babada Nagundi. I represent Kumboto Federal Constituency of Kano State. I rise to support a bill for an act to repeal the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs Act moved by Honorable Buba. I so move. I so second.
It's a very straightforward bill, I suppose.
Yes.
The question is, those in favor that the bill be read second, say aye. Against any, the ayes have it. Clerk is invited to the long title of the bill. Yeah, Mike.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to repeal the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs Act, Cap N113, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and enact the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs Bill to broaden the scope and functions of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, to add more value to foreign missions, and to provide for the power to conduct courses of instruction and learning, and create an academic board to award postgraduate diploma and master's degrees in international relations, diplomatic practices, and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to Committee on Foreign Affairs. Respected colleagues, the seventh order of the day is the commencement of debate on the general principle of a bill for an act to provide for the mandatory entrepreneurship education in educational institutions in Nigeria, to teach and promote entrepreneurship studies and for related matters, standing in the name of Honorable Eden. Honorable members would recall the bill was read the first time on Thursday, 19 March 2021, and I invite Honorable Eden to move that the bill be read second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues. My name is Idem Unyime, member representing Ukanafun, Urogonam Federal Constituency in Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that a bill for an act for mandatory entrepreneurship education in our educational institution in Nigeria and for other matters connected therewith, 2020 HB 831, be read for a second time. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Ali.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Respected colleagues, I'm Ari Mohamed Abdul Mumi, member representing Nasarawa Total Federal Constituency. The speakers are rise to second the bill, ably moved by a colleague from EDM. I so second.
Now is those in favor of the bill of less content, say aye. Against any, that's have it. Clerk is invited to read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to provide for mandatory entrepreneurship education in educational institutions in Nigeria to teach and promote entrepreneurship studies and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to Committee on Tertiary Education Services and Basic Education Services. Respectfully, the eighth order of the day is a motion on need to appraise the Nigerian legal framework against illicit financial flows, standing in the name of Honorable Idagbo. Honorable Idagbo is invited to move the motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. I am Honorable Lego Idagbo. I represent the good people of Bekwara, Obudu, and Obanliku Federal Constituency in Cross River State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move the motion on the need to appraise Nigeria's legal framework against illicit financial flows. Mr. Speaker, the House is aware that the Nigerian economy and its socio-economic development have deeply suffered from the unabated cross-border financial draining of our nation's revenue by illicit financial flows. IFFs are widely understood as the cross-border transfer of capital that are illegally earned, transferred, or utilized. IFFs often consist of commercial money laundering, tax evasion, and proceeds of corruption and criminal activities. The House is alarmed that according to a 2014 Global Financial Integrity Report, Nigeria lost a minimum of 140 billion to illicit financial flows between 2000 and 2014, mainly to crude oil and
Adagbo, my attention has been brought. You are not reading from the order paper. Yes, what they are supposed to do at this point is read from the order paper.
Mr. Speaker, it's the same thing, it's just that this is bolder on my eyesight. Mr. Speaker, it's the same content, but this is bolder.
If the same content, of course, issue will not have been raised by members. That is the practice and the standard.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I stand corrected. I'll take it again. Mr. Speaker, the House is disturbed.
That is the same.
Mr. Speaker, the House is disturbed that a report of the Global Financial Integrity 2014 showed that Nigeria lost a minimum of 140 billion to illicit financial flows between 2000 and 2014, mainly to crude oil and commercial activities, mispricing. Thus, Nigeria was ranked among the global top 30 countries having illicit financial outflows by dollar value, and in 2015, a total of 8.3 billion was involved in the illicit financial outflows. The House is also disturbed that the Tax Justice Network and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, estimated that developing countries, including Nigeria, lose over 200 billion per year to illicit financial flows as multinational corporations neglect, fail, or refuse to pay taxes despite generating substantial profits. The House is concerned that the illicit financial drain on the country's economy by illicit financial outflows continues to have negative implications for domestic resource mobilization and long-term economic growth and development, as approximately 5% of the IFFs from Africa can be attributed to corruption, whilst the remaining 95% comes from commercial and criminal activities. The House is also concerned about statistics that show that the amount of revenues lost annually is more than the sums provided as developmental aids. The House observes that the net official developmental aid received by Nigeria in 2017 was about $3 billion US, and the United States Agency for Interdevelopmental USAID has donated about 526 million US in humanitarian assistance to Nigeria and the Lake Chad Basin since 2017. Yet neither of the aforementioned figures matches the estimated 15 and 18 billion Nigeria loses to IFF annually. Hence, Nigeria continues to struggle with growing inequality, poor infrastructure, and lacking service delivery. The House also observes that despite having at least 12 institutions and agencies responsible for tackling IFF and related crimes, Nigeria continues to be menaced by weak regulatory structures and complicity of other financial secrecy, amongst others. The House further observes that global awareness has prompted government to develop measures and policies such as Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development and a common reporting standard aimed at eradicating the perpetuation of IFF and assist tax authorities track offshore holdings of taxpayers. The House is worried that an estimated 60% of IFF from Nigeria is predominantly committed to multinational corporations which continue to drive the cross-border siphoning of the country's revenue to the direct and or indirect benefits of foreign countries. The House is also worried that international information sharing and domestication of relevant policies have become a global priority to ensure cross-border cooperation to tackle the global threat to national revenue generation and its negative economic and developmental impacts. The House is aware that to ensure the domestication and implementation of the international legal framework, the Federal Inland Revenue Service published the Income Tax Regulations 2019, through which Nigeria aims to commence the implementation of a standardized automatic exchange of information to curb future revenue losses due to tax evasion. The House is also aware that Nigeria is taking steps to curtail IFF, especially from tax evasions. Billions of dollars have already been lost to IFF, as 2014 Financial Stability Report from Central Bank of Nigeria estimated that 35% of illicit financial flows out of Nigeria could be attributed to oil bunkering. The House is further aware that the oil sector accounted for 95% of Nigeria's foreign exchange earnings and 80% of Nigerians' total budgetary revenue. It has become imperative to recover those funds to increase short-term national revenues, particularly to alleviate the pressures of the current...
Honorable, can you go to the prayers?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House resolves to mandate the Committee on Finance, Anti-Corruption, Financial Crimes, Banking and Currency, and Insurance, and actual matters to investigate the phenomenon of illicit financial flows and appraise the federal government's current policy framework to curb the continuous loss of Nigeria revenues to illicit financial flows. Further urge the federal government to collaborate with state governments to restore and revalidate. Sorry, Mr. Speaker. To also mandate committees on finance, national planning and economic development, anti-corruption, financial crimes, banking and currency, and insurance and actuarial matters to appraise the Federal Inland Revenue Service current framework for identifying, tracing, preventing, sanctioning cross-border tax evasion and other illicit financial outflows. Finally, to invite the Minister of Finance, heads of Federal Inland Revenue Service, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Central Bank of Nigeria, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offenses Commission, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, the Nigerian Export-Import Bank, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, and other relevant institutions to address the committees on the continuous loss of government revenues to illicit financial flows and present reports on measures to curb revenue losses, particularly the coordinated implementation of the automatic exchange of information standard to prevent further revenue leakages, curb tax evasion, and money laundering activities. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Chairman, Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Said Musa Abdullahi. I represent the people of Bida Bakokacha Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Niger State. I rise to second this all-important motion as ably moved by Honorable Lego. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's have it. Respected colleagues, the ninth order of the day is a motion we need to investigate the failure of 2 billion Safe School Initiative Intervention Program. Standing now, Honorable Omana. Honorable Omana is invited to move the motion. And I would beg you, go ahead and move the motion. Maybe to go, after introducing the topic, is to go to the prayers so that we'll be able to save time. We have still loaded with much things to do again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Anie Khan Umana, member representing the unique people of Abak Etimegwika Federal Constituency of Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, my motion is on the need to investigate the failure of the 2 billion Self-School Initiative Intervention Program of the federal government. The House notes that the Self-School Initiative Program was launched in 2014 to promote security and safety of school, pupils, students, and teachers, as well as facilities. Also notes that the objective of the program was to design and implement the global best practices through the employment of qualified teachers, provision of library, laboratory equipment, and conducive teaching environment in our schools. Mr. Speaker, we are disturbed that the unfortunate increase in the security crisis in the country has even made this initiative more apt and important at this time. And in view of that, Mr. Speaker, the House resolves to urge the federal government to elaborate and collaborate with the state governments to restore, revive, and revalidate the Self-School Initiative and deploy special security personnel to schools in Nigeria, as it were. Mandate the Committee on Basic Education and Services to carry out an investigation into the use of the 2 billion Naira release for the Self-School Initiative alongside other donations from foreign countries and organizations, and report back within 6 weeks for further legislative action. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Wanda. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Ita Mbora. I speak for Calabar Urban Federal Constituency. I rise to move a motion as moved by my colleague, Aneka Numana. So moved.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against any, the ayes have it. Respected colleagues, motion is referred to the relevant committees of the House. Respected colleagues, the 10th order of the day is a motion on the reconstruction of Lambata Lapai Agai Bida Road, standing now Honorable Mahmouda Abdullahi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Respected colleagues, I'm Mahmoud Abdullahi. I represent the good people of Agay, La Pefera constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Niger State. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The motion is in respect of reconstruction of Lambata Lapai Bida Agay Road. And as the Speaker pleases, the prayers are that the House do resolve to urge the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency, FEMA, to swiftly, in the interim, intervene in the failed sections of the road and fix them. 2, that mandate the committees on works and appropriation to liaise with the Federal Ministry of Works, Housing to ensure provision of funds in the 2022 budget estimate for the execution of the project to expedite actions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Konda, Honorable Babuya.
Right Honorable Speaker, my respected colleagues, I remain Abdullahi Saad Abdul Qadir, Ningiwarji Federal Constituency of Bauchi State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion ably moved by Representative Mahmoud Abdullahi, my brother in size, for I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. Respected colleagues, the 11th order of the day is a motion on investigation into the operational and management of the export-free zones authorities in Nigeria, standing now Honorable Eta Mbora. Honorable Mbora is invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Eta Mbora. I speak for Calabar Ukwane Federal Constituency. I rise to move the motion to investigate the operations and management of the export-free zones authorities in Nigeria. And I'll just go straight into the prayers. That the House resolved to mandate the Committee on Commerce to investigate the activities of the free trade zones, the oil and the gas free trade zones, to determine revenue leakages and carry out an analytical overview of the operations of the Nigerian Export Processing Free Zones Authority, NEBZA, and Oil and Gas Free Trade Zones Authority, and report back to the House within 6 weeks for further legislative action. I so move.
Seconda. Yes. Niger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues. My name is Honorable Shehu Sada Rijo, representing the good people of Rijo, Magama Federal Constituency. I'm from Niger State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion ably moved by my colleague. I so second.
Favor of the motion, say aye. Against say nay. That's have it. Respected colleagues, the 12th order of the day is consideration of a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal University of Agriculture at Nkowa, Gombe State, to make comprehensive provision for its due management and administration and related matters. Honourable members will recall the bill was committed to Committee of the Whole on Wednesday, 4th February 2020. Honourable Obuka Yunusa will move for its consideration.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, for this opportunity to move that the bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal University of Agriculture at Nkowa, Gombe State, to make comprehensive provisions for its due management and administration and for related matters be considered. Thank you.
Seconda. Honorable Buba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Yusuf Buba Yakub. I represent Gombe Home Federal Constituency from Adamawa State. I rise to second the motion moved by Honorable Yunus. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's have it. Respected colleagues, the 13th order of the day is consideration of a bill for an act to repeal the Veterinary Surgeons Act Cap V3 Laws of Federation of Nigeria and enact the Veterinary Surgeons Bill and for related matters. Honorable members will call the bill was committed to Committee of the Whole on Wednesday, 4th February 2020. Munir Babana Agundi is invited to move for its consideration.
Rise to move that a bill for an act to repeal the Veterinary Surgeon Act Cap B3 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 and enact the Veterinary Surgeons Bill and for related matters. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
You are not specific. What are we going to do with the bill?
Consideration of report.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Baba Ian.
Right Honorable Speaker, respected colleagues, I remain Abdullah Saad Abdul Qadir from Ningiwal, the Federal Constituency of Bauchi State. I rise to second the motion moved by the Honorable Chairman House Committee on Agri Colleges and Institutions for the consideration of report of the Veterinary Act repeal and reenactment. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's have it. Respected colleagues, the 14th order of the day is consideration of a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of federal medical centers and for related matters. Honourable members will recall the bill was committed committee of the whole on Wednesday, 13 November 2019. Honourable Abbas Tajudeen would move his consideration. In his absence, I think Chairman Lucy should do it for us.
Thank you. I represent Berniwa, Krika Sama, Guri Federal Constituency, Mr. Speaker, I'm from Jigawa State. Mr. Speaker, I move that the House do consider the report on a bill for an act to provide for establishment of federal medical centers and for related matters. I so move.
Seconder. Yes, Honourable.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I remain Abubakar.
You still have a lot of this thing. I think you should allow those who want to support you to gather here. Yes, sir.
I thought
His Excellency, Honorable Speaker, Honorable colleagues, I'm Tajudeen Adekunle Obasa, representing Ojo Federal Constituency from Lagos State. I arise to second the consideration of reports as heavily moved by the Rules and Business Chairman to consider a bill for an act to provide for establishment of federal medical. So second. Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's have it. The 15th order of the day is a consideration of a report of the Committee on Health Institutions on a bill for an act to amend the Orthopedic Hospital Management Board Act, CAP 010 Laws Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to provide for the establishment of orthopedic hospitals in Benin, Edo State, and Jalingo, Taraba State, and for related matters. Honourable members of the court report was laid on Thursday, 6 May 2021. Honourable Pascal Obi will move for his consideration. In his absence, the Chairman rules move for the consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am Abubakar Hassan Fulata. I represent Berniwa, Krika Sama, Guri Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Jigawa State. Mr. Speaker, I move that the House do consider the report on a bill, that the House do consider the report of the Committee on Health Institution on a bill for an act to amend the Orthopedic Hospitals Management Board Act, Chapter 010, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to provide for establishment of orthopedic hospitals in Benin, Edo State, and Jalingo, Taraba State, and for related matters. I so move.
Yes, Honourable Webby.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, honourable members. Francis Ejirogane Waive is my name, and I represent the entire people of Ughelli North, Ughelli South, and Udu. I'm from Delta State. I rise to second the motion ably moved by my colleague for the consideration of the report on Delta institutions. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House do consider the report on a bill for an act to amend the Orthopedic Hospitals Management Board Act, Chapter 010, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to provide for establishment of orthopedic hospitals in Benin, Edo State, and Jalingo, Taraba State, and for related matters. I so move.
Yes, Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. Acting Chief will move that we resolve the committee of the whole to consider report.
Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, I remain Abubakar Inusa, representing Yamal Tudeba, Federal Constituency. I'm from Gombe State. I stand to move that the House do resolve to the Committee of the Whole for the purpose of the consideration. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Minority Leader.
Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Gideon Gwani. I come from Kaduna State. I represent Kaura Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion that the House do resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole to consider the reports. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. I have to say I will resolve the Committee of the Whole to consider the report. Yes. The first bill to be considered is that of an act to provide for the establishment of Federal University of Agriculture that in Kowa, Gombe State, to make comprehensive provision for its due management and for administration and for related matters. I now invite Honorable Yunusa to give the synopsis of the bill. I think we have taken that yesterday. What happened yesterday was that we asked him to go and again look into it as to whether the horticultural institution in Gombe State has a law backing it. And the result is that there is no such law, so it is an establishment bill. That's why we move straight. Thank you. Clause 1, 2, 4,